Cuphead and Mugman had returned to the Devil's Casino, all the contracts they need in hand, but the Devil wasn't quite finished yet. On another throne next to his was Outworld's Shao Kahn. The Devil turned to the brothers. "See, I have a few more contracts that need collecting, and my friend is going to help you get them for me." Kahn opened 2 portals, and through them came a pair of ninjas, one clad in yellow, the other in blue. These interdimensional shenanigans also altered their physical status to that of the Cups. The pair picked themselves up and turned to see Cuphead and Mugman standing in front of them. Before anyone has a chance to say anything or process what's going on, Shao Kahn lets out a thunderous "Fight!" Which duo will come out on top? This match will get red hot.
Well, of course Mortal Kombat wins. They're really gritty and edgy. Cuphead's just some lame kiddie shit that's maybe a little too well animated. But yeah, Scorpion and Sub-Zero should have the edge in this fight. What will definitely be the Cup's biggest problem here is that they're used to fighting giant targets that they can outmaneuver, all while doing gradual chip damage over the course of the fight. Scorpion and Sub-Zero are much smaller targets than any of the big bads they've had to face, and their maneuverability is arguably greater than the Cup's thanks to their less limited teleportation. Plus, Scorpion can raise fire from the ground to limit where the Cups can move, and Sub-Zero can cover the floor in a sheet of ice, making it harder for them to run around. They have far greater control over the battlefield, which Cuphead and Mugman don't really have any counters to. Experience is also something that will favour the ninjas. They've each got decades of martial arts experience under their belt, whereas Cuphead and Mugman have had their powers for, 2 days at most? And their only adventure had them both together. Sure, it means they've got good teamwork, but it also means neither of them have any solo experience to speak of. If the pairs get split up, Scorpion and Sub-Zero are going to be far better off, especially if they can get in close. Cuphead and Mugman can only keep them at a distance for so long. As soon as they get in, it's basically over. The pair are incredibly dependent on their powers, and they've never really thrown a punch before. They wouldn't stand a chance against Scorpion or Sub-Zero in a fistfight if they got up in their faces, especially in a fight to the death. Scorpion and Sub-Zero are experienced street fighters with killer instincts, while Cuphead and Mugman have never really taken a life before. Not saying they can't, but they'd be way less prepared. Now, I know Ribbit will want to point to Scorpion and Sub-Zero being more likely to just kill each other first, but that would not be an issue. In Mortal Kombat X, they'd already patched things up. And even back before Scorpion got resurrected, he already proved he could put aside his grudges when he had other goals that took priority. And without anyone like Quan Chi there to goad him into friendly fire, that's not really going to be an issue. There's only one way that this battle can end, and that's with a gruesome
fatality.
Seems that a brawl is surely brewing, and in this fight's case, I believe that it'll end with a triumphant, as opposed to a grim
fatality.
Hey, this is Ribbit, here to debate for Cuphead and his pal Mugman. Now I understand that at a first glance, this might seem like an uphill battle for me, but I'm actually pretty confident that the rubber hose heroes can pull through here. First of all, teamwork wise, Cuphead and Mugman are brothers. They've lived together for years and seem to get along very well. Even after Cuphead bet their very souls, Mugman wasn't mad, rather concerned for their safety. What does this show? This shows that Cuphead and Mugman are a much better team and get along a hell of a lot better than the Mortal Kombat duo. Yes, they may have patched things up recently, but are you really going to try and convince me that they now have a brotherly bond? Cuphead and Mugman are also from a very unpredictable world, bear in mind. Canonically, they beat every single one of the bosses on their first try. The fact that they can deal with all of these enemies on their first try tells me that they'll have little to no trouble dealing with Scorpion and Sub-Zero's many abilities. In fact, Scorpion's moveset already bears a lot of similarities to the Devil, who we know Cuphead and Mugman have it in them to defeat. Another thing to consider is their size. Cuphead and Mugman are relatively small, around half the size of an average woman. So Scorpion and Subby are actually going to be quite big targets. About as big as Sally's stage play is, and they had no trouble dealing with her. If anything, the people Scorpion and Sub fight are usually their size, give or take. Cuphead and Mugman are the ones that are going to be harder to hit. Next up, Scorpion and Sub-Zero are from Mortal Kombat, the game known for its gory fatalities. Because of this, a good few of their weapons are built around the idea of stabbing, slicing, and tearing their enemies to deliver over-the-top fatalities. But Cuphead and Mugman aren't like anyone these two have encountered before. They can stretch their limbs no issue and can take their own heads off to celebrate. Tearing at their limbs will either not hurt them or will lead to them just stretching. So those sort of techniques are going to be useless. I'm not saying that Scorpion and Sub-Zero rely on fatalities to get the win, but any attack being made useless is detrimental to a martial artist, let alone a pair that fight in gory tournaments. Cuphead and Mugman don't even seem to have blood. Their squash and stretch antics are going to contrast too much with Mortal Kombat for their more violent characteristics and experience to matter nearly as much. For one more argument, Cuphead and Mugman are able to revive each other. If one gets killed, the other can parry their ghost, and bam, it's back to being a 2-on-2. Or even a 2-on-1 if it's late enough into the fight. So, with better teamwork, logic and physics that directly counter that of Mortal Kombat, the ability to revive each other, and insane adaptability, I'm confident that this pair of anthropomorphic Chinaware will be able to take down the pair of blood-hungry ninja.
The cups being smaller targets might make fighting them obnoxious, but Scorpion and Sub-Zero both have plenty of low-reaching and area of effect attacks. Hitting them shouldn't be that much of an issue. The cups have fought targets just about as tall as the ninjas, yeah, but you also have to keep in mind that these targets don't really do anything to make themselves harder to hit. You're just gonna stand and tank attacks. They don't create shields or move out of the way a whole lot, both of which Scorpion and Sub-Zero are more than capable of doing, especially with Sub-Zero's ability to create huge ice shields. Also, the rubber hose physique won't be as big of a factor as you might think in terms of surviving fatalities. You seem to forget that the cups are actually huge glass cannons. I'm not going to say they can only take 3 hits before dying, because that's basically a single level of stupidity below saying something like, I don't know, Jevil could beat Spinel in a fight, but they still can't take as much as they can dish out. Even if their more cartoony bodies made them completely immune to dismemberment, there are still so many ways Scorpion and Sub-Zero could take them down. They could burn them to ash, impale them all over their bodies, freeze them solid and shatter them to pieces, or the easier option, just beat them to death. And on the topic of the cups being killed, reviving each other isn't quite the trump card you might hope it'd be. When they get revived, they aren't back in tip-top shape, they're basically brought back to being on the verge of death again. So it wouldn't be too hard for Scorpion or Sub-Zero to just, kill them again. Also, to even revive each other in the first place, they have to parry the other's ghost. And given that the ninjas have way more control of the battlefield, they can just stall one cup until the other's ghost floats away. It'd be especially difficult for Cuphead or Mugman to reach the other in a 2v1 situation. And on the other end, killing Scorpion and Sub-Zero is going to be way harder for Cuphead and Mugman, even in a stats equalized scenario. They need to be constantly chipping away at enemies' health, while they themselves can be rocked down much quicker if they're hit too many times. Cuphead and Mugman are going to need to land damn near every shot they can to even have a chance of victory here. Given that Scorpion and Sub-Zero can likely outmaneuver their asses and heavily restrict their movement by grabbing them, freezing them, and covering the battlefield in fire and ice, their odds of being able to land all those shots and chip away at them isn't that high. That wraps up my part. So, to conclude, you might call them villains, you might call them heroes, but regardless, they're exactly the same but so uniquely different. Their enemies fall, they are the kings of the tournament.
I'm gonna have to disagree with them being glass cannons. If anything, they're the exact opposite. They chip damage, which is a point against them, but they can for sure tank a lot more than they can dish out in this case. Remember that they are made as durable as the other duo here, so I'm not quite sure what point you were trying to make exactly. Beyond that, I agree that the Mortal Kombat duo are more mobile than a majority of the Cuphead bosses, but not their attacks. Jimmy the Great, Dr. Carl, Grim Matchsticks, and so many more all have homing, circling, and massive attacks that make the Cup Bros have to attack them while moving about and dodging at high speeds. And again, they do all of these bosses on their first try. This also shows insane stamina, having gone through basically the entire game in one sitting. If they're so easy to kill, how come every single boss, one after the other in quick succession, still left both of them strong enough to beat the very being that all of them fear by the end of the game? I think a few of my arguments were misunderstood. None of these were intended as trump cards. The Cup Bros being able to revive each other, and them being able to survive some of the gruesome attacks that Scorpion and Sub-Zero have, are not trump cards. They're things that help a lot, but not what I'm relying on. Sure, they aren't back at peak after being revived, but that doesn't mean it won't come in handy. Let me put it like this. Imagine both sides attack it out. They're both near death. Sub-Zero sends an ice wall at Mugman and he dies, but suddenly he's back. Meanwhile, if it was vice versa, there's not really much Scorpion can do. As for the rubber hose argument, I never claimed that they will be able to survive everything. What I'm saying is that Scorpion and Sub-Zero's options aren't as plentiful as they usually are, while Cuphead and Mugman can still play every card successfully. Both sides can kill the other, but Scorpion and Sub-Zero are going to need to rely on their ranged options. But if this is a ranged game, the Cups definitely take this in my opinion. It's kind of their thing. They have one melee attack, and who the heck uses the axe attack in Cuphead when the smoke bomb is right there? Well, speedrunners I guess. Heck, if you want to get technical, the equalized stats means that the extra hearts would actually make the Cups more durable, though you can consider that a game mechanic. I got off track. What I'm saying is that the Cups are all about range, while Scorpion and Sub-Zero like to, do ninja stuff. Why would Scorpion's most iconic attack be one that brings his opponents closer to him if he didn't enjoy a little one-on-one? But finally, I shall address the chip damage argument, which is the strongest point against Cuphead and Mugman here. Yep, they certainly are going to need to land every attack. But you forget that they have homing shots which would hit at least one of them every time. I think they're overall more athletic and more mobile, so I think if they play the long game, they'll make it through. Scorpion can teleport, but he usually teleports similar distances that Cuphead and Mugman do with their smoke bomb. Beyond that, Cuphead and Mugman dodge more. Mortal Kombat's fights aren't exactly akin to bullet hell. Couple this with their dash and their planes, and I think they're more than mobile enough to deal with teleportation. And I can't stress this enough, Scorpion and Sub-Zero hated each other for years. They are not used to fighting together. Cuphead and Mugman have shown the ability to fight together and on their own. Single player would not be possible if that was the case. Overwhelming the Cup Bros will be hard when they'll both have each other's back and know how to work as a team perfectly. Meanwhile, Scorpion and Sub-Zero will probably not want to fight together and try to split up the Cups. All of this coupled with their ability to turn temporarily intangible and summon a damage-dealing muscle-bound ghost, and I think that the duo's shortcomings aren't particularly detrimental, making me confident I bet on the right side, and I doubt I'll be seeing Snake Eyes.
Ribbit, did you know you don't say the T in cartoon? Did you know that, Ribbit? I just thought you might want to know that, just in case you didn't already. I think this is very important feedback for me to bring up.
I'm glad that was your takeaway. That just means you have no response to my rebuttals.
No, I do, but I'll save that all for part 2. Let's leave this up to the viewers for now.
Be sure to leave your predictions in the comments below, or in the Multiverse's Discord server, and vote on who you think would win in the poll. The link to the poll and the server are in the description.
Also in the description are the Galaxy Video Patreon and Ko-fi pages. Check those out if you want to support the channel.
We'll see you all again when part 2 comes around. Bye bye now. Oh my god, it's Mortal Kombat shop, boy, the word pain in it.